radio.
No, I would describe Game Life Balance U.S. as good college radio.
Good college radio?
Yeah, good college radio.
But we're not in. You hang out. We're not in college.
I like hanging out with college students. Now you see.
Oh, so you listen to college. You broadcast college radio still.
I do not broadcast college radio still, but I like broadcasting college students, if you know what I mean. I'm winking at you. I don't know if you can see that.
What is something is horribly wrong with your eye? What is broadcasting a euphemism for?
Well, I mean, in this specific instance or in general?
In this specific instance.
It's hard to say. Hey, what? It looks like we're live. That's
incredible.
What a crazy thing that happened. I didn't even remember hitting start broadcast.
And yet here we are starting our broadcast.
Here we That's true. I'm a host, Cody Goff.
I'm the other host, Jonathan Martin of our podcast.
Yeah.
Another episode of Game Life Balance U.S., the U.S. edition of the Game Life Balance podcast.
Yeah, we're going to balance both life and games. Well, not so much games. We're not talking about games this week.
Yeah, I don't think we are talking much about games unless you did something other than play Metal Gear Solid 5, which you've been doing for roughly, I think you're at about 300 hours now. Is that
251 hours? I did play this. I turned it on this morning to start developing a nuclear weapon.
Okay.
As we discussed, I need 2 more achievements on Steam. One involves developing a nuke. One involves, I think, disposing of a nuke. So as soon as it's done developing tomorrow morning, I'm going to dispose of it. And then I'm done.
That sounds very wasteful. It sounds like you had a lot of resources, you use them to create something, and then you're literally just throwing it in the trash can. That actually sounds incredibly wasteful. I think you should use that nuke.
No.
I think you should use the nuke. But
developing a nuke and disarming a nuke, right, I think it shows a character arc in my internal monologue.
I think it's really indicative of the wastefulness of Americans. I think it actually perfectly encapsulates the wasteful culture that we have here in America. You're just like, I'm going to make this nuke. I'm just going to take all of this money, all these resources. I'm just going to make this nuke. And then rest of the world, yeah, I'm sorry, you don't have enough food for your family? That's too bad. I'm going to disarm this nuke that I just made with all this money.
Right.
And food. And I just made it with a bunch of food. I mean, it's a food nuke. And I'm going to discard all that food.
It's a fook. Not to be confused with Farouk, who is the first African-American WWE champion.
I thought you were going to say our first African-American president. And I was going to say that is not his name.
And actually, it may have been Ahmed Johnson. I can't remember who the first Black World Wrestling Federation champion was.
This is certainly not a conversation that I can help you with.
Oh, wait, I thought this was the wrestling podcast that you keep talking about wanting to do.
Thank God it's not.
Oh, well, that's too bad. Well, this episode, you have a lot of stuff went on in your life, so I'm just going to let you host, and I'm just going to sit here and drink water, look good.
Mostly just drink water, though, right? So we talked about, I think about 3-ish weeks ago, we talked about me training for a 5K. And that actually just happened.
And if you were to call a segment that...
I would call it 5K. Is that a segment name? Hang on, let me check.
So on our list of segment names, it's...
I'm sorry, this is probably an oddity.
No, it's not one of the oddities.
Okay, is it something I'm hype for this? Hype?
No, it already happened. You're getting closer.
Okay. It's probably life stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, but if you were to say it in a way that was...
I would say it like life stuff. Was that sufficiently energized?
Yes, that was sufficient. No, I gotta admit it gets me a little randy when you speak that close.
I'm sure you can fix it in post. So
it's something I need to fix. It's perfect the way it is. I love it. It's wonderful.
So I did it. I ran the 5K, and let me tell you the lead up to it. So I had talked, I think it was probably 3 weeks ago. Is that about right? It was 3 or 4 weeks ago that
Well,
I
I can literally see on our topic sheet
yeah,
actually.
that I had talked about it, and I had talked about how I had never really run before, how fitness was kind of a challenge for me, and this training for the 5K for a virgin runner like myself who had never really run before is an 8-week training cycle, and I had gone through all 8 weeks, and at the end of the 8 weeks, I had about 2.5 weeks left before the 5K, and I was running about 3 miles 3 days a week at the end, because that's basically the final part of the training is just go out and run 3 miles and then be done and do that every once in a while until you're 5K, just to make sure that you stay in shape. So
That was your final form.
yeah, and it was all great. It was going really well. I'm really enjoying the running part. It's really, I really like it a lot. I really do. So I ran one day and I got back and I felt kind of like a tightness and some pain as I was walking in my groin on the left hand side, and it hurt. And I hadn't had that pain before when I had run, so I got a little worried pretty much immediately. And the next day, it wasn't any better, which is also unusual because I had gotten sore in my legs before, I think, as most runners do, but I had never gotten sore and then had it not kind of get better. So it hurt just as bad the next day, if not maybe a little bit worse, because it was a little bit more stiff. And I said to myself, well, I'm about 2.5 weeks out. I think I'm just going to stop running for a week. I'm just going to take a whole week off, and then I'm going to jump back in next week and try to kind of do the same thing. Well, I went a week and it started to get a little better, but it still hurt pretty much every time I stepped with my left foot. It was pretty bad. So the following Tuesday rolled around, which is like the start of my exercise week, because that was the day that I started the training with this app. So Tuesday rolled around and it's like, okay, I'm going to try this again. I actually felt pretty good. And so I went out that morning and I ran, and I actually ran faster than I had ever run before. But the entire time that I was running, I was feeling this tightness in my groin. And I everything everything that I've been reading up until this point of me doing this has said, like, listen to your body. If you're in pain, stop doing what you're doing. So I really should have stopped, in the first 10 minutes of me running and realizing that, oh, I'm in a little pain. But stupid me, not ever running before and not listening to myself, decided I was just going to finish up. I was just going to finish up this 3 miles that I had planned on running. And by the end, I was in a legitimate amount of pain in my leg. So I got done with that. And I said to myself, and I'm a week and a half out, because it's not the upcoming Saturday of that week of Tuesday, but the following Saturday.
So it's like
So
13 or like 10
about
days.
10 or 11 days. Yeah, it was actually on Sunday. So I I said, all right, I'm gonna have to stop. Like, I'm gonna have to just not run, because it's real bad. And for the next week and a half, up until probably Friday, it legitimately felt like it did not get any better at all. And I was like taking ibuprofen, I was stretching it multiple times a day, staying off it. The only thing that I did was, I have a recumbent bicycle downstairs in my basement. We've talked about it before, actually, on this podcast. And I used that to kind of keep my heart rate going, because I wanted to make sure that I was still prepared for the 5K. And that actually didn't hurt when I was using it. But every other time that I was just walking up and downstairs, that kind of thing, it hurt pretty bad. So the morning of the 5K rolls around, and we head down to where it's going to start. And I'm feeling okay. I've taken like a week and a half off. I took a couple of ibuprofen prophylactically ahead of time, just to make sure that I wasn't in pain. And we were running around this lake that I had never run around before. It's basically exactly five kilometers all the way around one time. And because it's I mean, you've run before. You ran cross country. We talked about that. If it's a course that you don't know, you don't necessarily maybe know how to pace yourself for it. So
Yeah.
we're getting the lowdown from the guy that's running the 5K, and he tells us, oh, there's 2 hills on the course. They're decent sized hills. One is at the 1.5 mile mark, and one is at like the 3 mile mark, basically right before you finish the race, which is a wonderful time for a hill, let me tell you.
Oh, it's great.
Yeah. So the race starts. I'm running and I feel great. And I get to the first hill, and it is the steepest hill that I have probably ever walked up, let alone tried to run up. And I said to myself before the race started, I said, unless I get hurt, I am going to run the entire time. So I get to this hill, and I said, I'm going to do this. I'm going to run up this stupid hill. And I did. I ran the entire way up the hill. It was awful. It was the hardest thing that I've ever done in terms of like running. It was insane. I can't even describe to you how steep this hill was. So we got up to the top, I got up to the top of it. And from that point on, so this is just a little over halfway into the race. From that point on, my legs were just killing me. Like my legs were far more tired than my heart was. And every other time that I've run, it's my heart that gives out first. My heart rate gets too high basically. And that gives out first. And that's what makes me slow down. I was totally fine. Cardio was totally fine. It was all my legs that just sucked. And we got to the end of the race, and you're 3 miles in, and there's that second hill, the second hill of the race, and it's not nearly as steep. But when you're already tired and getting to that hill, it was pretty brutal. But I ran the whole time. I finished the race. I finished in, I had like a kind of a self goal that I had for myself. I wasn't going to be mad if I didn't hit it, but I did. My own personal goal was just trying to beat 10-minute miles, and I did. So I was really excited about that for somebody who's never run before.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And congratulations. Like, that's
thanks.
a big deal.
Yeah. And it was fun. And, and not just running, but other events, big bike marathons or whatever, they're so cool. And I'm sure you experienced this as somebody who raced, but like everybody is so supportive during the event. It doesn't feel like, granted, you were in a competitive version of the sport, but like random people are cheering for anybody that finishes the race. I know it's just a 5K. I know it's just a small thing, but it's like a cool atmosphere. It's a cool kind of communal type activity that gets done. Generally, they're for good causes. It's a charity that provides scholarships to college students. So that's what they were raising money for. I mean, it was for that, but pretty much all of the marathons and all of the half marathons and all the 5Ks that you sign up for have to pay for. All of that typically goes to some sort of charity good cause. It's all cool. It's cool stuff. It really is. And I was just kind of blown away by the support of everybody that was there. And it was awesome. And the funniest part of the whole thing is that the winner of the race ran it in just over 19 minutes. So that's what, about 6 minute miles ish, a little over 6 minute miles.
I'm not good at converting kilometers. Yeah. It's like 3.2 miles, right?
It's 3.2 miles. It was a little over 6 minute miles.
Yeah.
Which sounds really good. Also, he was pushing a stroller. He had his kid with him.
Oh, he was one of those.
Yeah. So not only did he have the best time, his kid actually won the race because really the stroller was in front of him and crossed the finish line first. Yeah. So that's kind of super impressive. I was kind of blown away by that. It was kind of ridiculous.
The ones that are really good are always so disgustingly good. I remember the fastest kid in the cross country conference that we ran in. The fastest kid would always finish first by a minute or something, and then immediately he would just keep running run back double back halfway back the course to cheer on his teammates. It's just like, okay.
What a jerk.
Yeah. It's, we'd see him like no one's saying congratulations or patting him on the back because he's still running.
Right.
They're freaks.
Yeah.
But good for them, of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Seriously, good for him. It was great. And I was super proud that I finished. I was a little worried because the following day, which would have been yesterday, Monday, we're recording on a Tuesday. Yesterday, I was in quite a bit of pain, including my groin again. So I wasn't sure if it had like fully healed. But I woke up today and I've been walking around and it's been totally fine. So I think I think it had been so long since I'd run, because it had been a week and a half, that I was just sore. I was just legitimately sore after the 5K. And it was it was the longest distance that I'd ever run too. And it had 2 giant hills that probably used muscles in a way that I typically don't use them when I run either. So that combination of things just ended up making my legs sore. And thankfully it wasn't like, I was legitimately afraid I kind of had a torn muscle in my groin, because it didn't feel like it was getting any better for a long time.
Yeah, I hate stuff like that, and I've totally been there. And in high school,
did you have any injuries when you were running like a decent amount?
Well, I never had injuries like that, but I would have something similar where a part of my legs or a part of my body would be in a substantially higher amount of pain than the rest of my body, but I would just keep running. And you were definitely not the first person in the history of training to feel something and feel like maybe I shouldn't keep going. Oh, wait, I'm going to do it anyway.
And then it just leads to more complications for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but I was, I had, especially immediately following, the days immediately following when I think I hurt it the worst, my leg was in a significant amount of pain. I was just in a terrible mood. And I don't know if like you had a similar feeling, but I don't know how people with legitimately chronic pain can deal with it, because I just hurt for a couple of days. And again, I was in a pretty foul mood the whole time.
Yeah, no one likes being in pain.
Yeah. So that was pretty terrible, but it's done. It's over. I'm going to do more. I think kind of for sure. I really kind of want to train for a 10K next. I think that'd be really fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, you should.
Yeah. I need to kind of figure out if I can run again on like a normal basis. So I'm probably going to try to go out again on Thursday. It'll be the first time I ran since the 5K 2 days ago, and see if it's going to hurt anything when I go out. But yeah, I'm actually excited for it. Like, I'm looking forward to getting outside and running, which is cool, because generally I've never really been excited to exercise. It has always been something I've had to force myself to do, not something that I've wanted to do.
Yeah, I think it's so cool. I really think it's awesome you did it. I think it's inspirational and makes me feel extremely lazy, because I have barely exercised in months at this point. It's really bad. Like, it's getting really bad.
The winters in the Midwest, I think, are a big part of it, to be honest. I think most people up here put on 10 to 15 pounds over the winter time, and it's just something that happens because it's really cold. It gets really cold here.
Yeah, and I mean, I did after. Well, I have a mini story that's kind of related to yours. But Sunday I wanted to run. I ended up not having had time. Why didn't I run? Oh, I didn't have running shoes. My running shoes are at the gym at work. So it's Sunday morning and I'm sitting here and I go, I really want to run. The only shoes I had are my hiking boots.
Probably shouldn't run in those.
Yeah, no, not so much. So that's what stopped me from running, which was super annoying and a dumb reason. I don't even have tennis shoes right now. Mine literally fell apart in Colorado. That's why I got the hiking boots. So I tossed them. So I don't even have walking tennis shoes to run in, which is very annoying. So, but you're right. It's I enjoy my share of yoga and I do enjoy lifting from time to time, but I feel like cardio is so important when you get older.
I also think that one of the things I really like about running as well is that you can do it anywhere. So you could just decide, I want to go run today. And you as somebody who probably has a harder time being able to get to a facility to exercise than most because you don't have transportation, you live in a big city. You know, you could just literally walk out the front door of your apartment complex and you could start running.
Yeah, no, I can,
And
when I'm visiting you this weekend, I could wake up early and go for a run and then come play
absolutely.
board games all day.
Absolutely. I mean, like, it's just that is something I really like about it as well, that you can just go out and do it and then it's done. It doesn't take a lot of preparation at all.
Yeah, except stretching. Got to stretch.
You do have to stretch.
A lot of stretching. Yeah, I was also very proud of my sister this weekend because she ran the Tough Mudder in Chicago. Do you know anything about that?
Is that the 5K where they have obstacles set up?
It's actually 11 miles.
Oh, it's the 11-mile one. Okay. Your sister ran 11 miles?
I know.
That's
Well,
impressive. I mean,
to
it's
be
not
fair,
that, it's not that I'm surprised or anything. It's just impressive that she ran 11 miles.
She did not run 11 miles. Much of it was walked. She said the cardio is kind of the hardest part. So there was some jogging and walking interspersed. She was not able to run the whole thing, but they were able to surmount all the obstacles and they made it. I mean, it took them 4 hours to do.
Yeah.
So
That's a long time.
You know, that's a 20-minute mile. And granted, they're doing 11, but still. So
And they're also doing obstacles, right? Isn't that the whole thing about a Tough Mudder is you have things you're climbing over and things that you're crawling through and
yeah, no, absolutely. And the very first obstacle, I guess, is there's a net, a really tight net over the ground, and you have to crawl under it. And you just get completely covered in mud, you know, a mile into the course or whatever. So it was still, believe me, it was still very physically challenging.
For sure.
I mean, I'm there watching with my camera at the 5-mile marker. So they've walked / jogged 5 miles and done several obstacles. And then they have to pull themselves over basically a giant ladder, but the rungs are 4 feet apart from each other. So, you know, they're pulling themselves over things and pulling themselves over mud slicks. And then there's one quote unquote obstacle where they're
just a man with a baseball bat, and he's just swinging it at your face.
Yeah,
it's a weird
just knocks out their kneecaps. Yeah. There's one where it's about 15 feet in the air, and they grab they grab a handle basically and just swing down, but you don't swing onto anything. You just swing. You can at the other end of the pendulum, I guess. When you swing in this arc, you can let go and try to hit a cowbell, and it's a achievement unlocked, I guess.
It's worth 50. No, it's worth 50. You get 50 points for Gryffindor.
50 points. 50 points for Gryffindor, right? Or you can just, but then once you hit whatever you do, at the end of it, you just drop into water. There's just a pool of water. So you just swing into this giant pool of water. And there's one point where they just fill a swimming pool with ice cubes, and you have to wade through that or swim through it or whatever.
Running and walking with super wet socks sounds awful. Do they have you change your socks or anything?
Oh, God, no. They were soaked the entire time.
Oh.
I saw them completely submerged several times. Yeah, I know.
That sounds awful.
Yeah. But I was watching, and of course, who does it? My sister, my cousin, my girlfriend, and Blake, our friend, did it. So 4 people that I spend a lot of my time with socially, and all of them doing this team effort kind of physical thing. And then the next morning I'm waking up unable to run because I have hiking boots, and I see your tweets about running a 5K, and I'm surrounded by all these people that are outside being energetic and active and moving a lot and having a good time. And now I feel like maybe I should stop just sitting around eating Doritos and Taco Bell, smoking weed all the time. And what else do I do? Eat pizzas by the dozen. I order a dozen pizzas.
You order a dozen pizzas. It's way too many pizzas.
Yeah, I eat bags of Doritos. What else are stereotypes about people that are burnouts?
Mountain Dew.
Mountain Dew, yeah, just downing, yeah, lots of Mountain Dew. Playing World of Warcraft, just, yeah, dumping food all over myself.
I think a lot of Fallout and Skyrim, I think.
Fallout? Skyrim I can see. Yeah. I don't do most of those things, but I'm actually
also, you have a girlfriend, so, I mean, you automatically are disqualified from this particular trope.
I guess. But anyway, yeah, so, but good for you and good for all of them. They said they've finished. All they could talk about was doing it next year. it's all they could talk about was how much fun it was and how much teamwork was involved because they'd have to pull each other up and all
So
these
they really
things.
expect you to run these things as a group. They expect you to kind of go as a
Oh,
group.
completely. Oh, there were groups of 30. There
Wow.
were huge groups. Our team was 4. It's supposed to be 5, but one person overslept. But it's very teamwork focused. And same thing you were talking about exactly with the supportiveness. I mean, there were teams helping each other out. They actually don't have times in the Tough Mudder. They don't give you a time at the end.
They just want you to finish.
They just want you to literally. It's just about finishing, which is kind of cool actually.
Yeah.
Because then you can set your own goals or whatever, but
Sure.
there's no official whatever. So, but yeah, that was pretty intense. So look into that. You would probably enjoy doing that.
Probably be a while before I will take on some sort of 11-mile thing, but yeah, we'll take a look at it maybe in the future. Maybe I'll start by, trying to run like 5 miles next.
No, but again, they did not. No, I mean, very few people ran the whole thing.
Right.
There was a lot of walking and jogging. Even if it takes you 4 hours, it's still really fun, I guess. So, Tough Mudder plug, I guess. Tough Mudder representatives, if you like to sponsor us.
Yeah, if you want to sponsor the podcast, this Game Life Balance U.S. podcast, the U.S. edition of the Game Life Balance podcast, a podcast about balancing games and life.
Yeah.
Your ad here.
So we'll have to check in later this summer into whether I'm now actually motivated enough by you and everyone else to get in shape, or if I'm just going to continue being lazy, becoming fat and obtuse.
Rotund. You're probably going to continue to become lazier and rotunder.
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 If I were a tile in Civilization 5, I would be a rotundra.
I'd totally give you a high five right now if I could. Then I'd kick you in the nuts. So
yeah,
the next segment is the joy of parenting. And if I could insert a baby cry in here, I would. Should I wake my son up and make him cry?
But you can't, because I do all the post-production editing. Sorry about ya.
Okay. Next time that we do a Joy of Parenting segment, then I'll make sure that Max is crying in the background when I introduce it.
Record him crying, and then I can add it in post from now on.
Perfect. That's a good idea. You can record him when you're here this weekend. So I would say my wife and I probably experienced the first real scare concern regarding the raising of our child. So up until this point, other than the occasional sickness, he's been super easy to deal with.
And he's generally down with the sickness.
Huge fan of Disturbed. Really likes that new Sound of Silence cover that they do. I don't know. It's weird. I don't think it's that great.
Huh.
He's into it, though. I mean, he likes Simon and Garfunkel. What? There's nothing wrong with that.
Really?
He's a hippie at heart.
All right.
So there was one illness that he had last winter where he was having significant problems breathing. It was the scariest day of our lives by far. He went into the doctor. He had to get an epinephrine shot to open his airways. Came out of that totally fine. Everything was good. That was a scary day. This was like a scary few weeks. So we had never had a parent-teacher conference at any of our daycares. So Max has been at daycare since he was about 8 weeks old, because my wife works and I work, so we don't exactly have like a stay-at-home type arrangement that we're able to take advantage of. So he's always been at daycare. And one of the great things about daycare is they have kind of a formal syllabus at daycares that they make themselves, just like a teacher would, and that they adhere to. And they also have a lot of experience when it comes to raising children, because that's kind of what they do for their profession. And so they have a handle on kids in terms of the development cycle, right? So when you have a kid, and you wouldn't, maybe you know this, but probably not, because you don't have a kid. But one of the things that you do when you're raising a child is you look for milestones. And you've probably heard the term milestones before as it relates to children, but
Yeah,
maybe not.
talking, walking.
Sure, but they're more granular than that. Those are far more broad than the milestones that they use to really determine where your kid is. So the milestones that kind of you're looking for are things like
Fire, Fira, Firaga, Blizzard, Blizza, Blizzaga. Yeah.
sure, and typically you learn them fire, blizzard, then thunder, and then you would go to Fyra, Blizzara, and then Thundara, and then Firaga, I suppose.
But some babies will learn Bolt.
Some babies don't learn fire because their village was destroyed in it.
Right. Yeah. But they do learn poison, which I feel is not the right message kids should be sending to.
It's also a pretty useless ability, to be perfectly honest,
right?
in
Who
that game.
is
Pretty,
vulnerable
nobody
to
ever
that?
nobody ever used poison. So just give you an example of a milestone. Something like baby will, if you hide your keys underneath a blanket, for instance, the baby will look under the blanket to find the keys. That's a milestone. Because there is like a switch in your brain that gets flipped when you're learning stuff as a baby that says, oh, when this thing disappears, it still exists. Because up until that switch is flipped, you as a baby think that if something is not within your sight, it does not exist.
Right. Spatial reasoning begins to develop.
Sure. So that's like one of the milestones. Well, we are at a little over 2. And so the big milestones now kind of all deal with language. Everything is very language. There's a lot of gross motor skills stuff, fine motor skills and stuff. But generally the ones that you watch for now are language milestones. And so we went to this parent-teacher conference, and she sat us down, and they have, the list of categories. And when we got to language, we kind of knew that he was maybe a little behind, but we went through, the checklist of stuff that they're looking for the kids to do. And he, there was a ton of stuff that he wasn't doing, and that he's kind of still not doing, but that he wasn't doing at the time. And we had never been told he was behind or slow in anything. And it was a shock. Not that we would think that we wouldn't have a kid that was slow, right, in terms of development. It's not that it was us thinking, oh, it would never be our kid, because we're realistic parents. We know that that's like a distinct possibility. It's just when it's actually told to you as a parent, it changes things, I guess. And it kind of put things into perspective. So we had a little bit of a joint parental freak out. Now, my wife is a very high-strung person. She's a relatively high anxiety person. Generally, I'm very good at calming her down and being the reasonable, kind of level-headed one in our relationship.
As good couples do.
Right. However, I found myself having a very difficult time being that level-headed, calming force when it related to an issue with Max. It must have just been the parental part of me, but I was nervous. So, we kicked around, and I guarantee there are other parents like us that feel the same way if their kids are having language issues. We kicked around, is it just language? Is he possibly like on the autism spectrum? Because that is one of the developmental delay is a
symptom.
Major, right. It's a major indicator of kids on the autism spectrum. There's a lot of other things too. That's one of the main ways to tell is that they're having developmental delays. So, we read a lot of stuff, which was probably not the best idea, because the internet will tell you that your kid has everything and is probably going to die.
Cancer. It's cancer. I just went to WebMD. It's cancer.
In the next week. So it probably wasn't the smartest decision to read everything that we could find online. However, we did. And we we legitimately started to get nervous that he could be on the spectrum. My wife more nervous than me, but generally we were both nervous. So one of the cool things that you can do in your community, that you can get in your community, is you can get a teacher and like a special ed educator and a like a language specialist to come out and screen your kid. And generally this is paid for by your tax dollars.
Oh,
So yeah. So we contacted, I think, and Casey took care of all this. I believe it's the school board that you contact. So she had contacted the school board and she said, hey, we want to get our son screened. He's behind, according to school, he's like behind in his language. Um, Another example of a milestone, putting two words together, like eat food. Like Max doesn't do a lot of putting two words together. He generally just says one word at a time.
Hmm.
He's doing it more now, like as he's developing a little more. But at the time that we were freaking out, he wasn't basically doing it at all. But anyway, you get these two people, like the special educator and the language specialist, and they come in and they just sat and watched Casey play with Max for about 3 hours, and then they kind of give you their assessment in terms of whether you need to kind of pursue it further. And we got that done, and thankfully they say everything is kind of in check. He knows more words than most kids his age. He just is not putting them together. So that's a good thing. He's got like an extensive vocabulary, but he's just not, his grammar is not developing as quickly, which is fine.
probably because he's got so much vocabulary in his head. He can't learn everything at once.
Something. So, when this happened, we, like I said, we had the parental freak out, and we said, what can we do? Like, what are some things that we can do that's going to make it so that he develops his language better and faster? So I decided I'm going to start reading him chapter books before we go to bed. So I'm currently reading through the Harry Potter series with him. And so I read a chapter a night to him, and it's the funnest thing. He just sits there and listens to me. Generally, he sits there and listens to me. He likes to look at the book and look at the words. Obviously, he can't read anything. If he hears words that he recognizes, he'll repeat them over and over again, very excitedly. But it's just kind of it's a totally a fun, like, daddy son time. And it ends up making him go to bed better, which is really nice. So it's actually been kind of a net positive, this whole thing, in that we've found something that we can do now, that we get to do now, that's a fun daddy son bonding time. But it is incredible how quickly and like deeply you can get concerned for your kid. And I'm always worried about him for one reason or another, whether it can be something as simple as, did he have a good day at school type thing. Like, I'm always concerned about him because he can't communicate. He's a baby. He can't communicate well yet. So it's not like I can just ask him if something's going on. So I'm always worried about him about something. But when something like is legitimately has the possibility of going wrong, it's hard. And so, like, my wife and I were talking about how this must be like the hard stuff about parenting, like the really hard stuff is being concerned about this type of thing, trying to like develop a plan as to like, so we need to prepare in case there is something wrong, in case he is on the spectrum, in case we do need to hire a language tutor for him, because they have those for babies to develop their language more. We talked a lot about all that stuff. Like, how are we going to handle this? How are we going to pay for that kind of thing? Like, so there's a lot that goes into that stuff, and it was scary. So I more than anything, I just kind of want this segment to be, because I don't know if we have many parents that listen to us. Maybe we do. I hope we do. But I just wanted to say, if you're a parent that had a scare like this, or maybe has a kid on the spectrum, or had a kid with some sort of developmental delay, like, I I feel you. Like it is scary and it's hard, and it's being a parent is a difficult thing sometimes. And it was a difficult couple of weeks. There was a lot of anxiety.
Well, I'm glad you got through it.
Yeah.
You didn't show it around me. I mean, not that I see you, but
No, I mean it was a, it was a family thing. It was a,
right.
it had more come out of it had there been. I'm sure I would have broadcast it more widely to the people close in my life. It had there been some sort of consequence, but part of me too was just saying, are we just really overreacting? And because I think that's really easy to do as a first time parent, and I'm cognizant of that, but it doesn't make it any easier not to have a strong reaction. Like knowing that you have strong reactions as a first time parent, at least for me, doesn't stop me from having those reactions. I still react strong. I still have high anxiety sometimes, that kind of thing.
Right.
So, yeah, that part's over. Right now, we're good. Things are good. You'll get to see Max again soon. He's pretty great right now.
Man, scary rebound stories from you today.
I know.
Nearly didn't do the 5K, nearly had problems with your son, but you triumphed in both cases.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, I did. I won this week. I win.
You are the what's the word from Hunger Games? I've never seen it. No,
you're the kid that died. The kid what?
The Hunger Games tribute. You are the tribute.
Wait, but that's a bad thing.
Is it?
Because don't you have to go into the Hunger Games and?
I don't know how any of that works. I've never been allowed to watch Hunger Games.
I mean, it's got Jennifer Lawrence in it. It's worth watching. Probably.
This is what I said. I was visiting Will a couple years ago, and he and the girl that I was with at the time vetoed it.
I mean, it's got Jennifer Lawrence in it, so it's probably.
This is what I'm saying. Anyway, it doesn't matter.
Worth watching.
Well, that's intense stuff. I have nothing to add to your story because I am not a parent and I don't care about anyone. So
that's fair.
And in the chat, Will says several expletives. But no, seriously, at MartinCon this weekend, we're going to watch the Hunger Games.
Yeah. So speaking of MartinCon, and I'm fine with that because, like I said, it's got Jennifer Lawrence in it.
Yeah. So we're done with life stuff and joy of parenting. Now we're moving on to the
hype. Actually, this could be hype.
Yeah, but I don't care that much when I'm going. I'm only going reluctantly and because Ryan will be there, which I am hype about for other reasons that'll tie into this podcast. But go ahead and talk about what we're all doing this weekend that I bought a plane ticket to come see you on Friday.
You literally just said what we're doing this weekend.
No, I said I'm coming on a plane ticket to see you, but
you guys all live relatively around the Chicago area. You guys actually get to see each other pretty frequently. I, on the other hand, live all the way up in the frozen tundra of the north, above the wall. And
yeah, I was gonna say beyond the wall.
Right. And so I do not get to see you guys as much. So I think for the past 3 years we've had MartinCon?
Yeah.
I think this is the third year now, and it's grown into basically everybody that goes to Gen Con every year is now getting an invite to go to MartinCon, which is everybody's going to come spend a long weekend up at my house, and you probably are all going to trash it, and it's going to be awesome. We're going to play a lot of board games and video games, I would imagine.
Yeah. The 10 or so of our group of friends that have known each other since pretty much first grade and reunited Gen Con every year. Yeah, now have a second con that is only 4 months outside of Gen Con.
Yeah, and it's really cool because I now have a house that will be able to support, even if we had all 10 people that normally go to Gen Con come here, I could reasonably support that and have everybody be comfortable in the house. So that's super exciting. So we got plenty of room, which is awesome.
I'm excited about the 3 seasons porch because I want to see which season I'm landing on. Is it one of the 3 acceptable ones or the forbidden season?
Well, this is 3 seasons out of a 10 season year. It's like an alien planet type thing. Yeah, no,
Uh,
the planet doesn't just have 4 seasons like ours. Right.
uh,
Makes sense now?
no,
Okay.
but I'm excited also because this year, our friend, the host of Daryl TV on Twitch TV, the official podcast of
The
Game Life
official
Balance
Twitch
U.S.
channel. I think it was the official Twitch channel of.
Oh, it was the official Twitch channel of our old podcast.
Right. Yeah.
Uh, well,
Regardless,
that's pretty
regardless,
useless. Doesn't
you're
well
going
now
to
it'll
you're going to
we're
have
gonna
a lot. You're going to have an episode of Daryl TV. I think is the plan.
I was gonna say we're gonna co-opt his channel for the Game Life US Game Life Balance US podcast. Yeah, actually, yeah. Oh gosh, if you're on WGN Plus or GonnaGeek.com or GameLifeBalance.us, you can search Daryl TV, Darrel TV, or just find it on Twitch. But we've done a whole podcast around interviewing the host of Daryl TV and all this stuff. But it's a Twitch stream
And a scream.
and a scream that is extremely obscure. It has not many subscribers or followers, but it's someone that John and I know and is one of the funniest people that we've ever met.
He's a pretty
Just
funny
straight
guy.
up. He's unbelievably hilarious. Everything he says is a parody of something. He's so great. So he's hilarious. I visited him in Iowa last summer, and he and I broadcast, we think, to Twitch TV. We were so drunk that we got halfway through and realized he wasn't even sure if we were recording or broadcast. Like it was outrageous. So my plan, and I didn't think of this till like yesterday, but I was just like, oh my God, John's computer's going to be there. Ryan's going to be there. He's going to be able to log into Twitch TV. He could bring his microphone because he's driving, right? I think he's driving.
Yes.
Yeah, he's driving, so he has more room to throw crap in his car. So if he brings, and I'm probably going to bring some mics too, because I think this weekend we should do some live stuff.
We absolutely
Probably.
should.
I'm debating whether to just bring the whole rig, not like my computer, but I'm debating whether to bring the soundboard, 2 mic arms, and 2 mics.
I mean, you're flying. You probably should try to not kill yourself bringing a
They're
bunch of
not
stuff.
big. It'd be one piece of carry. It'd be one roll on.
If you were,
I could pad all my
if you were
clothes.
going to do anything, you should give. So you've got a buddy who's driving up, John Simon. You should just give it to him and have him bring it to Max and
I think
Will's
it'd be
car.
harder for him because he would have to take it on a bus
That's true.
and then put it in our friend's car, then drive to Minneapolis. I did think of that. That was my first thought. But now my
Don't
thought
you just
is,
want to inconvenience as many people as possible, though?
oh my God, yes. So
This seems like the way to go.
that's
Then.
true. That's true. Well, none of it's big. Like I said, I can stick it in the bottom of my roll-on or I may just ask. John actually borrowed one of my mics, our other friend, so I just may ask him to bring that. So we've got to and call it a day. But either way, yeah. Well, so listener, yeah, Jonathan and I are not in the same place at the same time often. So hopefully we'll record some stuff this weekend, and that'll end up on our podcast or on our YouTube channel or both or all that stuff. And then hopefully this weekend, this will be Memorial Day weekend, at some point I'll be broadcasting, and I'm like all our friends will get involved, I'm sure.
For sure.
I just make a big deal because the last time I did it with Ryan, he and I were so drunk we were dying, basically. It was amazing. Not dying. Come on, listener, be safe. But so there might be some live broadcasts this weekend. So check out Daryl TV, and I'll announce it on Twitter constantly. And you can find all our info at GameLifeBalance.us and follow us places so we can let you know. But if we all do something like, are you going to try and play through a Final Fantasy game this time?
It depends. We'll see. Maybe.
How far are you in 13?
I completed it. I literally finished that game. How crazy
What?
is that? Yeah, how crazy is that? I somehow in the course of like 3 weeks, I put 41 hours into it and completed it.
Wow. All right.
I don't know. And I'm playing Final Fantasy 14 again.
I really want to start. You're tempting me. I might bring up. Well, I'm going to bring up Star Fox.
Let's Let's do it. Let's figure out a way to do it.
Well, because that's a switch off kind of game, and I've never played it. Still, even though I got it the day it was released.
Yeah, we should probably play that then.
Anyway, yes. So totally forgot that we're actually doing a podcast right now, but there are a lot of endless possibilities for this weekend. So just stay tuned for great content. And following Memorial Day,
I was just going to talk a
ahead.
little bit about the Gonna Geek Network, whom we haven't mentioned yet. But you still have other important things to say, you're telling me.
I do. No, almost. I was just going to say, and then after this weekend at Martin Con, between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So just for the summer, we're switching to bi-weekly. So John and I will be recording every other week. This is because Cody Goff, who is me, is a little burned out from editing and posting podcasts and needs some time off this summer, and is also going to be doing a lot of traveling and things. So it'll just ease up.
And if there's any time to take some time off, especially in the Midwest, it's in the summertime when you can actually go out and do stuff.
Yeah. So anyway, we're going to switch to bi-weekly. Now, the good news about that is we have a sister show, Game Life Balance Australia. They are hilarious. Seriously, go listen to them. Game Life Balance Australia also posts every other week. So I'm going to, you might want to say, sync our cycles. I think is the way I want to say it. I want to make sure our cycles.
That sounds vaguely sexual. Is that like
we're cycling at the same time?
Is that like broadcasting?
So our cycles are synchronized, the two of our shows. And by synchronized, I mean you get a week of them and then a week of us and then a week of them and then a week of us. So you can still listen to Game Life Balance, the podcast, every week. It's just that it'll alternate accents every week. Variety? I don't know. There's a lot of content out there. Maybe you'll enjoy having less to worry about consuming. Maybe not. I don't really know. But either way.
Their accent is way better than ours anyway.
Their accent is so much better than ours. So much better.
John, they basically sound Cockney.
No, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go. I'm going to get Cockney and go Cockney. How I've been going up to north on the weekend.
That was definitely that wasn't even Cockney. I don't know what that was.
Just happened. I went Southern Cockney.
You did. You went Southern Cockney.
Oh, Australia is weird. I literally had a dream last night, John, that we visited Rob and AC in Australia. And we were staying with them. And we got there and we were staying with AC. I'm not sure why. And AC just toured us around his house. And then I think Rob disappeared or he was being shady about letting us come over. I don't remember what was going on. But I legitimately last night had a dream that we visited them in Australia.
The reason why Rob was being shady is because Rob is me and Rob doesn't exist. We are the same person.
That's right.
Also, I'm not sure if you heard, but AC formally announced on the podcast that he and his wife were expecting a child. So, and I never had a chance to formally say congratulations on that, but congratulations on that. You've basically put the pressure on Cody. So good for you, AC. But also kids are awesome.
He totally said that to me in an email like 2 months ago, 2 or 3 months ago. He said, well, now, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my.
But this is like the official congratulations. It's awesome.
Yeah. I congratulated him in an email.
And I did it publicly, which is 100 times better. So I'm better than you.
It was private, which gives it intimacy.
Better than you.
Everyone likes intimacy. Better. Anyway, cool. Well, that's all I had to say. So thanks for letting us let you know about the schedule changes and all that. And now Jonathan has an important announcement before we do some wrap-up banter, which will be undoubtedly hilarious and for which you should stay around because
none of that is true. I don't even know if I have something to tell you.
Promo's not the end of the podcast. It is the segue to the end, the decoupage, if you will. And I hope that you do, John.
We are fortunate to be members of a podcast collective called the Gonna Geek Network. You can find us at gonnageek.com along with a lot of other awesome podcasts. We have podcasts on the network of all sorts of different subjects ranging from various comic books, TV shows, movies, general nerdiness. I think we have 1 or 2 podcasts that do that. up to the minute news about stuff in nerd culture in the nerd world. So it's a pretty cool place. Again, they host us. We are very fortunate to be part of them. Just a couple of podcasts that they have uh, that we have on the network right now that have some new episodes up, just to give you a taste kind of what there is out there on the Gonna Geek Network. One of our podcasts called Nerd Alert News put up episode 36, Cancel, Add, or Renew. There's some huge casting news out of Marvel Studios. As new cast additions were announced for Thor Ragnarok and Spider-Man Homecoming. Not to be left out, the CW has hinted that Arrow, The Flash, The Legends of Tomorrow, and Supergirl will be crossing over next season. And finally, Chris runs down many of the shows that were added, canceled, or renewed with the big five networks. And then on the official GonnaGeek.com podcast, SP returns after his 2-week mandatory vacation to discuss a certain dwarf planet, Snow White. Steven goes hyper for Hyperloop, and Chris bents his pants on the next James Bond. In SP's Space Symposium, he tells you about the Herschel telescope. I'm assuming that it's supposed to be bends his pants? Maybe it is supposed to be bends his pants.
Why would he bend his pants?
I don't know. Bends.
This seems like an autocorrect fail to me. There's no way he was going to say bends.
Bends his pants. Yeah, what would that be? Bends.
Beats his pants?
Beats his pants. He beats his pants. That common American colloquialism. Did you beat your pants today? Okay, you beat. But this is perfect. This is perfect. We're like we basically made it to the end before our technical difficulties this time. So we did a lot better this time than we typically do. What else we got? So
pants before?
We're probably going to lose out on our hilarious banter. I believe Cody's face is frozen, as it typically happens once or twice over the course of an episode. I will just say thank you very much for listening to us here at Game Life Balance U.S. office of the Game Life Balance U.S. podcast of the Game Life Balance network in the Gonna Geek network. On TBS, we know funny. Did I outro that right?
Did you outro us?
No, I didn't yet. But I can.
Okay,
because you're broken.
All I heard was I came back and you said on TBS we know funny. That's all that I know. I disconnected temporarily and that happened.
Perfect. Then you heard everything that was important. I will say thank you for listening to the Game Life Balance US podcast, the American edition of the Game Life Balance podcast. Please like, share, and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, and leave us a review if you really want to make our day. You can find us on the Gonna Geek network at gonnageek.com or on the official podcast network of Chicago's WGN Radio at wgnplus.com. Learn more about Game Life Balance, including contact information and links to our sister show in Australia at gamelifebalance.us.
Why does it say at gamelifebalance.us?
Because that you could find that's what it says.
For the listener that doesn't know what a URL is, explain that.
Explain what gamelifebalance.us is?
Yeah, explain what a URL is.
It's a thing you type into the bar at the top of your your web browser to go to a place.
You know what I'm hype about?
Web browsers?
Thursday, I'm going to see the Chicago Symphony Orchestra perform The Planets by Gustav Holst.
Oh, Gustav Holst. Be still my beating heart.
You know The Planets.
I do know The Planets.
You know it's awesome.
It is awesome.
It's good. I've lived in Chicago 7 or 8 years, and I saw an open rehearsal of the CSO. I think they did Brahms Requiem, actually. Can't remember if it was that or something else.
That's the spell that does damage to the undead, right?
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, you get a bard. You get the bard unlocks from the fire crystal, I believe, after the ship explodes in Karnak. And one of the songs that you can learn when you're in the second world after the big bridge with Exdeath and Gilgamesh is a town of I believe it's werewolves. I think it's a town of werewolves where you can find a minstrel in the bar who teaches you requiem, which does an incredible amount of damage to the undead. And so when you're climbing the mountain where you have to rescue the wind drake, you're actually going up there for, I believe it's dragon grass, which is poisonous to humans, but to wind drakes it cures them.
Oh
Everybody
man,
know,
when I was in Colorado, I had some,
everybody knows that.
when I was in Colorado, I had some dragging grass. You
And
know what I'm
and
saying?
so when you're
You know
climbing
what
the
I
mountain, there are these large groups of undead that requiem as a bard song tends to do an incredible amount of damage, generally making it much easier to get up the mountain.
Universal resource locator. It locates a resource. And hopefully that resource is dragon grass. You know what I'm saying? You want some dragon grass? I'm going to get some dragon grass before I see Bram's Requiem on Thursday.
That's not what you're going
I'm
to see.
seeing the planets. Before you got me, you threw me off. The Gustav holds the planets on Thursday night before the Schick Symphono, which again I've seen. I think once on a Groupon, and it was a chamber something version, and once was this open rehearsal. I don't do this, right? CSOs, you can get cheap seats, but the tickets I'm going to end up wanting are going to be more expensive. So in general, yeah, it's an expensive affair, and you know, if
Yeah, it's
you're
like a
going
basketball game. You want to sit up front because you have to see all the action.
right, this is what I'm saying. So, but no, this was happening, and I mentioned it to my girlfriend, and she says, "What's the planets?" She doesn't know this piece, so we're gonna go to a pre-concert talk on it from 7 to 7:30, and then at 8 o'clock they're doing it, and I'm super excited, and it's gonna be really good. And a couple of Drake Pharmacy graduates are gonna be in Chicago at just visiting from Iowa, and they're gonna go with, so I'm gonna grab dinner with them.
And then you get to spend 4 hours trying to fly.
Trying to fly a kite? Listen, you know how I fly, John? You know
I
what
don't.
makes me fly? You know what gets me flying and just with no problem?
I,
You know what gets
I,
me
I
flying?
don't. I have no idea.
Dragon grass.